Let me see. Good morning. The last day of the event, Startup Turkey. Thank you for the participation for 3 days. I am very excited to be host you all 3 days here, and also my team. After Teru, I would like to also listen your feedbacks about improving our organization and improving our all mistakes, errors, and also the other stuff. Teru came along Japan for this event. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you that accepted and come. You are on the stage.
Merhaba. Benim adım Teruhide Sato. Burada sizler olmak çok güzel. Sorry, my Turkish ends here now. I have to learn more. But, well, thank you again, Brack, for inviting me to this great event, and I enjoyed the past 2 days a lot. Actually, Turkey and Japan have a very long friendship. And actually, the first time I visited here, it was 20 years ago, when I was pretty young. I hope I'm still young, but Turkey has been, since then, has been one of my favorite countries in the world. And last year, I visited here once again to attend the Davos conference in Istanbul. It was in June. And there I found a lot of course, changes and opportunities and the good infrastructure, young people, young entrepreneurs, and very strong government support. And of course, the respect for culture and history. And since then, I've been looking into this market, and today I'd like to also announce some news for the Turkish internet industry. Today, let me go through, along with those 3 topics, introduction of myself and our business in Japan. And maybe you are not much aware of the internet business landscape in Japan, so I would like to share the overview of the internet business in Japan, and also the startups environment, also in Japan, the Far East. So I myself, I'm actually 37-year-old now, and I founded my first company as an online payment gateway company in the year of 1997, when I was actually 21. And it became the largest payment gateway company in Japan and went public to Tokyo. And after quitting the company, I founded the current company called NetPrice in 1999 when I was 24. And for Japanese, it's not normal for those young people to take risk. And most of them actually still are going for the large companies like Toyota, Sony, and so very limited those kind of weird, crazy people like me just jumping into that industry. But I thought that the internet would be the fundamental change for any kind of business. So I jumped into in this industry since then. And the first business that we were building was actually group buying model in the year 2000. That was much prior to actually Groupon phenomenon, by the way. And we built the gathering, we call it gathering, on PC and mobile. As you know that I will also share with how the mobile internet industry is big in Japan later. So we founded the group buying model as our first business. And it hit the wave. And it increased until it goes over $100 million in 4 years. And then we went public in 2004. And we formed different kinds of e-commerce businesses, forming a holding company. So now it's netprice.com is actually the holding company listed in Tokyo. We have over 10 different e-commerce business entities. Those. I don't go through those, but those. So this is actually the first page that we launched in the year 2000 for the group buying platform. And as you see, the right one is actually the feature phone-based mobile group buying platform in the year 2000. And actually, we built this in 3 weeks. It was really kind of minimum viable product. So we just used it without any database. We just coded and created the form, and then created this kind of MVP. And it really hit the bottom. It hit the wave. And actually, 50% of the now this B2C group buying model is still done through mobile. So in Japan, mobile internet is really getting huge. And so now this is the current site. So we have PC, smartphone, feature phone, and tablets, and 50% are feature phone, smartphone. And those are the businesses that we have now after forming a group of or internet businesses, a group of e-commerce companies under the holding company. In Japan, as you know, that Japanese people treat the items, products very well. Sometimes, they just keep on their closets. They never use, right? They buy Louis Vuitton. Not they, but we. We buy Louis Vuittons, Pradas, Gucci's, and a lot. So luxury market in Japan is first very large. And then also second, the logistic infrastructure in Japan is also very well developed. So combining those, we created this platform that we buy luxury items from the users, and we evaluate it, we make things good, and then we resell it, C2B2C model. And that's becoming a middle-sized business now. It's about $60 million sales business, and doing fine. And it will be maybe $300 million business in next 3-5 years. And this could be the also interesting site for you. It's an auction marketplace price comparison site that we have in Japan, launched in the year 2006. We made a crawler to gather all the marketplace price data every 50 minutes. We crawl most of the Japanese websites, and also the eBay in the States, Amazon, and Taobao in China, and Gmarket in Korea, and auction in Korea. So aggregating all those price data in one place, so that the internet sellers, most of the individual or SMEs would come to this site to check the price. Then which price they have to put on their product, right? And then also consumers access to this site to buy things at a reasonable price. So this is becoming a very good business in terms of the price comparison business, not only for shoppers, but also for sellers. This is another business that we are now pursuing. It's a cross-border shopping platform. We made an alliance with eBay. eBay does not have a very strong presence in Japan. There's one large auction platform called Yahoo. Yahoo is very strong in Japan, by the way. The Yahoo has actually beaten the eBay. So we are now helping eBay to penetrate into Japanese market with this platform. So we mashed up all the eBay APIs and then created a Japanese website for those Japanese who cannot read English and who cannot pay to US or Europe. So we combined those APIs, payment API, product API, and created a Japanese website for Japanese people to buy US or Europe listed items. And it's making $60–70 million annual sales. And I hopefully it will also be like a $300–400 million business. We launched also 6 years ago. This is a business model. And by the way, have you ever visited Japan? Thank you. Only two. Oh, please come more often. But you can also access to the Japanese websites if you really would like to, shop the Japanese products. And this is actually the site that facilitates those overseas shopping. In fact, 5–6% of the Japanese shopping sites, actually 100% of Japanese shopping sites are in Japanese. But 5–6% of Japanese shopping sites have the overseas access from overseas IP address. So we thought that it could be also a good business potential market for those who are not living in Japan, but who like Japanese products. So we created this company, another subsidiary company called Tensou.com, where you can have your Japanese address virtually. So you register in our site, and you obtain the address in Japan. It's like a kind of locker, kind of PO box. Then you access to the Japanese website, and you use that address for you to shop. And then we do the transfer. So we also cover, by the way, Turkey. So there are some Turkish people who are using our service. And we cover 84 countries and regions already. And it's relatively small size. It's only $40 million sales, but I hope it will be bigger. No. Well, so in terms of the Japanese e-commerce market, it's still small, but I hope it will be bigger, as you said. Thank you. And those are the main business that, so our strength is mostly e-commerce area. And then we created, as I just explained, those several business ideas. And now those businesses are now catching the wave. And apart from our core business in Japan, we started investing into US, China, and Southeast Asia, and most recently also India. So those are the list of the companies that we did already invest into US in the Silicon Valley. And along with those very famous venture capitals like First Round Capital, Google Ventures, Redpoint, Kleiner Perkins, Andreessen Horowitz. So those are the startups that those companies are, most of them actually have very strong interest to get into the Japanese market at the end of the day. But they are still focusing on US market. So we are now leveraging our strengths, to connect them to the Japanese market in the future. So we also do this kind of early investment in US. And I personally am very much engaged in developing emerging market, by the way. So this is maybe interesting for you. This is the internet penetration gap among countries. So in US, in 1997, it went over 20%. And in Japan, it was in 1999. And China, 2008. And Indonesia, 2011. So we see, this is actually the back to the future thing. It's the time machine. So we are taking also this kind of time machine strategy that we could deploy the business that was succeeded or that was proven in Japan or US or China to those emerging markets, which has a larger population, like Turkey. And then we tackled, last year we started tackling into Indonesia market. So in Indonesia, the population size is 248 million. And it's largest in the ASEAN area. And of course, the soaring numbers of internet users. Now the internet penetration rate is reaching to 30%. So we invested into the company called Tokopedia. Toko means Indonesia, it's shop. So Toko Wikipedia, so Shoppedia. And also another very the payment gateway company that I formerly created. And this is our C2C Tokopedia. And the number of sellers are already 24,000 sellers, which are mostly individuals, and which are mostly like the college students, or those like early 20s internet users who have time, but who have also eagerness to earn more money. So we are leveraging that kind of internet users who are heavily dedicated to the internet usage. And then we provide this platform for free. So we are taking the Taobao type strategy. Taobao, the Chinese giant. So Taobao is still free in China. But they are making lots of profit these days. I will explain it later. But so we are pursuing the similar strategies that Taobao took. Taobao started in the year 2003. And then Tokopedia started 2 years back. And then now monthly GMV, the transaction volume in this model is over 3 million. And it was in the last December. And last January in last year, so it was about 1 year back, the transaction volume was only 300K. So it increased 1,000% in a year. So that's really coming up also in Indonesia. Of course, logistic infrastructure is really bad. Compared to Turkey, it's really super bad. Compared to India, slightly better. but still, but for those Indonesian customers, also the expectation level is lower. And expectation for individual sellers are also lower than expectation for those business sellers. So I think in emerging market, where there is a kind of lot of kind of messy platform, messy infrastructure still, or low-level infrastructure. I think C2C model stands faster than B2C model. That's how I look at this kind of market. And also another one is the online payment gateway company in Indonesia. We launched the joint venture with the local conglomerate, and just launched last October the kind of cyber source type payment gateway business in Indonesia. And Turkey. Apart from Indonesia, we did investment in India. And we are also talking with the potential partner in Vietnam. Vietnam also has the largest population, by the way. It's over 90 million population. And after visiting Turkey last June, I looked at the Turkish e-commerce market. And what I found was, first, the infrastructure, payment, logistic are very well developed. That's what I found. And second, B2C players are now coming up. So maybe slightly different from what I saw in Indonesia. Indonesia, so messy still. So C2C can stand more. But now I see the Turkish market, B2C can also stand. So I got introduced by the key persons here in Turkey. And then we just made an announcement this week. We formed a strategic partnership with Akakçe, the largest price comparison site in Turkey, as you of course know. And this was actually by the introduction by Brock. So thank you very much again for connecting us. And I'm very happy to develop those areas together with the great founder, Koray. I think he's right here. So what we do from now is, since Japan and we also have the mobile experience, mobile commerce experience, so we would collaborate together to develop further the mobile features for Akakçe. That's first. And second, helping them, supporting them, facilitating their Akakçe international expansion. And third, there could be also the cross-border opportunities from Turkey and to Turkey. So those three pillars we are pursuing with the strategic alliance with Akakçe. And there's actually one big price comparison site in Japan called kakaku.com, and which has over 35 million unique visitors, and which is actually making about $100 million profit. So as I saw in Japan market, as B2C market grows, those price comparison site who facilitates the trustable shopping, both for merchants and for users, will be very much fundamentally needed as time goes on. So I'm very happy to meet Koray, and I actually invited him to Japan for the kind of learning tour for both of us. And then I hope that we could develop further the business in this area along with Akakçe. So that's actually the very recent news. Okay, so let me go next to the next topic, that is more overview of the e-commerce, e-business in Japan. And I brought some numbers also. So in Japan, actually the internet business started with ISPs in year 1994. And then Yahoo came to Japan and built their Yahoo Japan portal together with SoftBank in the year 1996. And then the largest marketplace company called Rakuten built their platform in 1997, and then we launched in 1999. And that was the kind of a PC era of the internet business in Japan. And then around 2003, 4, 5, there are new big players in mobile, mostly in gaming. So there's one company called Gree, another company called DNA, which are selling about 2 billion and making 1 billion profit out from the social gaming in mobile. And now they started their business from feature phone, and in recent 1 year, they are very much rapidly moving toward the smartphone. I will talk about the smartphone infrastructure in Japan later also. So this is a e-commerce market as a whole in Japan. And it's reaching, last year it reached 9 trillion yen, which is about 100 billion US dollar as a market size. 8% of the total consumer market. That's the number that we have now. And maybe more interesting for you is this mobile business market, including mobile commerce and mobile content. Last year it reached to 20 billion US dollar. So it's becoming significantly large in the mobile industry, along with the mobile internet. And this I just only brought for I just brought the number of the 2011, but last year smartphone penetration was really quick, so now it's expanding more rapidly. And social gaming market in Japan, last year it was over $4 billion market, and it's also growing, very profitable. And smartphone and feature phone penetration, mostly 90% of the new distributed mobiles are now becoming smartphones, and then among those, 60 to 70% are Androids, and 30 are iPhone. I think also this is also happening in Turkey too, but just give you the number. And tablets, relatively small in Japan, by the way. I heard from my friends about the, was it FATI project that the government is really pursuing. But that's actually not happening in Japan. So I think tablets market, Turkish market will be more advanced. We have only 4.2 million units distributed last year. And hopefully could speed up by something. And I brought also Far East largest country, Chinese market number. Maybe it could be a good kind of inspiration for you to think about, for you to know about the China in size. So China is big. Well, that's all that I have to tell you. But population is this. Mobile user is this. Internet user is this. But I think more interesting to see the number of online buyers in 2012, which is actually exceeding US market. And in the market size also, this year, Chinese online shopping market will exceed US online shopping market. It was nearly the same last year. And now Chinese online shopping is exceeding. And that's one, because of the population, of course. But that two, since there are no much sophisticated retail chain network in China compared to US, people directly jump into the online shopping experience. So I think that will be also happening in other emerging markets too. And Japan comes the third. So I also brought some numbers about China. Can you see? 407 million. What's this number? Is the monthly unique visitors of Baidu, the Chinese largest search engine. I think this is very interesting for those of you who are engaged in the e-commerce market, by the way. 160 billion USD. That I wish I could have it, but not. This is actually the annual transaction volume that happened in Taobao last year. You know this size? This is actually twice as large as eBay is making last year. That is actually 3 times larger than Amazon is making last year. So we can say that Taobao, which is mostly C2C, and B2C, they have Tmall. So in this Taobao platform, they have C2C and B2C together. And B2C stands for 20%, and 80% are still C2C. It's actually becoming the largest platform, e-commerce company in the world. And there's a rumor that Alibaba Holding, as a holding company of Alipay, Taobao, Alibaba B2B, and AliCloud, and those things, to be public this year. And I think that if they went public this year, it will be over $100 billion market cap, or maybe more. So it's very interesting to see how large the Chinese market is, and also it's maybe more interesting to see which kind of steps or which kind of context the e-commerce market in such a developing countries used to be, now happen to be into the internet business. So I'm actually every year I'm making a tour, and I'm gathering my friends of those e-commerce like Indonesia, Vietnam, and also maybe this year could be also from Turkey, to bring them to Shanghai, Hangzhou, where Alibaba Group locates, and do the kind of interactive learning each other. And then that might actually really help you to get a kind of image how the emerging market business model could evolve in the future. So China as a kind of learning case, I think. And 800 million, this is the largest communication platform, messaging service called Tencent, the number of users. So anyway, that's the number of China. So I brought some for just to let you know. And lastly, I would like to talk about the startups environment in Japan. I brought some numbers again. This is unfortunately the number of companies in Japan. And we experienced the bubble in the late 80s as a Japanese economy. And after the bubble, the number of companies have been constantly decreasing for over 20 years. That's because we are an aged society. The average, the medium of the total population in Japan is, by the way, it's 46. In Turkey, it's 29, right? So 46 is the average, the mean. And then Japan, as we really kind of one of the most conservative countries, maybe in the world. And we have fear of failure. This is the part that you have to laugh. It's not a serious one. We don't have this anymore, by the way. But still, Japanese people, as a normal people, think about the risk more than the opportunities. So this is a kind of a social, less acceptance for taking the risk. And we had a disaster 2 years back. It's a Tohoku area. By the way, there are many Turkish NGOs who kindly came to Tohoku area just right after the earthquake. And I really would like to thank for your support. And we had this 2 years back. But actually, this brought us, or younger people, kind of a fighting spirit again. So it was actually, of course, the disaster was terrible. But actually, this is making people, especially younger people, changing these days. And we are facilitating those changes by operating also the accelerating program in Japan. And the IPO number in Japan, it's actually coming back. So after the Lehman shock, also the number of IPOs in every year went really down. But last year it was 48 new IPOs, and this year it's expected to have about 80. So it's now coming up and then it could be rewarded for those risk takers. So we run this Open Network Lab. It's a joint venture together with us, NetPrice, and a company called Digital Garage. Digital Garage is early investor to Twitter or Facebook, and one another company together. We run this seed accelerating program since 2 years back. And we form a community, and we actually invite not only the Japanese mentors, I'm also one of the mentors, but also Silicon Valley mentors or mentors from China, so that those startups in Japan can learn, from many perspectives. And also we provide space. By the way, you can find one Turkish person here. In the middle. I brought him here. His name is Bora Savas. He was actually the second batch of the Open Network Lab. And he successfully sold his company to a Japanese company. And then he joined my team. And then now we are developing, the business in this market also. And we also mentorship and events. We do lots of hackathon, design UX, lean kind of boot camp, conferences. I hope that someday Bragg can also join. And we are very much welcome that any of you come to Japan and to join this kind of meetups too. And we founded, after 2 years of this activity, we founded over 25 companies, and 60% of them got succeededly get the Series A fund from the venture capital. By the way, in Japan, the amount of the venture capitals that invest in 1 year, it's about $1 billion for the startups. And lots of coverages. And we have those mentors from US. He's actually Japanese. He's Joe Ito, or the director of MIT Media Lab, and then he gave us this kind of word. And this is the founder of Evernote. Your product is your best marketing tool. And I like the last one of BizStone of Twitter. Opportunity can be manufactured. I really love this. And with this very encouraging word, I would like to finish my speech here. Maybe we could have kind of Q&A sessions later. So I really hope that we could learn more about the other emerging markets together, and we could collaborate more in this market. And hopefully, I can bring some other Japanese delegates next year, if Bragg allows me.
Of course.
Thank you very much.
So, the first question comes from me. What was the valuation when you IPO your company?
We went public with the valuation of $2 billion. I'll fluctuate.
Any question?
Maybe Bora, you can say.
Hi, this is Dilan. I'm from Bulgaria. I'm very happy to be here. Because we run an accelerator program in Bulgaria, it would be interesting to know how do you structure your investments, how much do you invest, and what's the seed round usually in Japan?
Maybe can I invite my friend here also? You can. Well, it's more or less very much similar to YC in US. And so every 6 months, yeah. So twice in a year, we run batches. And in 3 months, they have to do the product out. And in terms of investment, we take 6%, was it? 5 or 6% of the share for before initiating that kind of boot camp. And if the products are good, developed, again, then we do the double down. That's investment size could be like 200K to 500K. And for the Series A, typical Series A in Japan, it's about 1 to 2 million. So maybe it could be called as in the US term, maybe it could be called as a kind of angel investment. But typical size of the Series A investment is about 1 to 2 million. Maybe you can share. His Japanese is super good, by the way. Maybe when you peel, there's another Japanese inside.
Sato-san, thank you very much for a great presentation. One question, you saw there was a rise of the number of IPOs coming. Are they in the tech space, or what, I'm assuming it's like all kinds of companies, but I'm just curious if it is tech space or mainly from other industries.
Yeah, so two things. Among those new IPO companies, let's say 50 to 60% are related with tech space. Not directly on the internet sometimes, but with the software or like a medical education, but together with tech space. So that's one. And another point that we could see from Japanese IPOs, tech companies have a higher valuation these days. So, like considering the last year IPOs for the tech companies, there are about 20 to 25 new IPOs in Japan, and the initial price offering was about, for example, the initial offering price was, let's say, $100 million. Then the average price after the 1 week of the IPO was about 200 million. So now in Japan, also the tech companies are kind of accepted as the new growth. So relatively a kind of higher valuation. It's a good sign, by the way.
Can I ask one other question? Sure. Do you think, I know the Japanese market relatively well, do you think the dominance of a Rakuten and Yahoo Japan is a good thing for the market or a bad thing?
Actually, what I see in terms of e-commerce area in Japan, in 3 years, maybe Amazon will be bigger. Not with the B2C model only, but also marketplace model. So I consider Amazon as not the B2C, neither the bookseller, neither the B2C. They are actually the platform. And it's actually working very well. So last year, Rakuten generated over $15 billion transaction volume, and Amazon did about $9 billion. And Amazon growth is over 35%, while Rakuten is 15%. So as you see the numbers, so actually the dominant will be Rakuten in terms of marketplace and Amazon. And the Yahoo auction is doing good. They generated again about 9 billion. But I see auction businesses is, at the earlier days, it's good business. But for example, taking Taobao as an example, of course, maybe, as you know, Taobao is not doing auction anymore. Yeah. So it's listed price, C2C or B2C, a marketplace can maybe evolve more in a good way. That's how I see.
Well, I think isn't the issue with, not the issue, isn't the reason Taobao's done well, it's also because there's a payment system, sort of ported to it versus eBay, versus Yahoo Japan's auctions, which didn't have their own sort of payment. I'm just curious.
I understand. We can talk later, but let me just. But by the way, Yahoo Japan also have their own payment option. By the way,
it's not very good. I worked on it.
Yeah, it's only suitable for Yahoo auction, by the way. Yeah. So, yeah. I'm not blaming those big players, my friends. Anyway.
What kind of international expansion and cross-border help are you planning or helping Akakçe, if it's not confidential? And how can Turkish startups or Turkish technology businesses work with you or your network to develop businesses together?
I see. So we are in good discussions regarding the strategic partnership. So actually, at this point, we could not disclose much about that. But in general, I think as far as I see the Turkish internet companies, technology-wise, it's very good. And general infrastructure like payment, logistic, it's also very good. So actually, it's a combination of how you actually create the new kind of business model on top of that. And then in that sense, Turkish companies could learn more from Japan or China. Where, for example, the Japanese largest price comparison site making over $100 million profit. And their revenue source is not single. That kind of things. So that's what we are actually in talking. And we will be coming up with kind of a new good ideas in the future as we go on the partnership. Sorry, maybe I'm not directly answering to your question, but sorry, we cannot disclose much, but you know, I'm very happy to be here, and I'm very happy for that partnership. Thank you.
You mentioned you are mainly interested in developing models in emerging markets which are already developed in Japan and China. What are the other industries or areas you see pretty much developed in Japan, for example, except e-commerce, marketplace, and price comparison, which would be also suited to these markets, for example, like Turkey, Middle East, Europe?
Yeah. When you call the platform business for e-commerce businesses, I think there are only actually several. One is marketplace, one is payment, and one is price comparison. And one is actually, that's also in the US, it's also evolving, is a storefront, like Shopify, Shopzilla. And there are similar ones also in Japan and also in China. So I think it's very important because the power shift of the fundamental power of the internet is actually the power shift to individuals or SMEs. That's actually really the beauty of the internet. So those businesses like free storefronts type businesses are the kind of typical models that we also see also in my emerging market, also in the developed market. For example, China, there is the largest, again, China, all the numbers are large, but there's a company called ShopEX, which provides good storefront for any individuals. And using that platform, it's over $20 billion transactions are now happening with that ShopEX. I think you should check it out also. And some others, like as e-commerce market evolves more, of course, product sourcing would be another issue for those sellers. And also for those sellers, the customer acquisition or customer relationship management would be also an issue. So there will be lots of potential market in those areas too, as market grows. That's how I see. And also smartphone.
So last question? Is there? Yes.
Hello. So you've seen the early stage investments ecosystem in Indonesia and Vietnam, yeah? Are there similar to kind of the term sheets and the deals are similar to Japan, like from the seed to success in 3 months, 5% X dollar, and then after that 200 to half a million, and then the Series A and whatnot. The reason I'm asking is I think the ecosystem in Turkey grew a lot, yet the early stage investments are still very low, or for very high percentage of the companies compared with like YC in San Francisco. I'm wondering if you observe something like that in Vietnam and Indonesia versus Turkey.
I see. Ecosystem-wise, it's still, let's say, thin in the size, thin in the diversity, thin in the kind of social backup. And it also gets related with how the company or the investment at least can get the exit. So for example, in Indonesia, we could still hardly see, we can only see very kind of a tiny hole of the potential exit. One is to be listed in Jakarta market, but the Jakarta market is still, composed of large companies like natural gas, infrastructure, but not internet. And there will be the M&As by the local conglomerate, potentially. And the third exit would be acquired by the multinational giants like Google, Facebook, eBay, and so on. So as far as I see the emerging market like Indonesia, Vietnam, I see relatively kind of a tiny exit patterns. So that makes those earlier investors or seed round investors not that much active compared to, of course, US or compared to Japan. So, but how I see the market is actually, but for those entrepreneurs who really look the long term, not just catching the boom, but if we really look at the long term, thinking about their business for next 10 years, I think for those entrepreneurs, there are more rooms for the investment because there are some patterns of internet businesses. My expertise is actually e-commerce area. So when I see the patterns, there are patterns like a marketplace will be big and big and big in the future, for example. And for example, price comparison also, big and big and big and more important as time goes on. So for those entrepreneurs who look really kind of long term, there will be a more opportunity for seed funding or Series A funding. But for those entrepreneurs who look very short term, just to build a company and to sell in 1 or 2 years, I think there are less rooms for them in those emerging markets. Or not maybe also in developed countries, but I see very typical kind of two separation. One long term, one super short. And that's also happening in Indonesia or Vietnam and other places too. So, yeah.
I would like to ask a question to Bora at the end. As a foreigner in Japan, how it is difficult to start a business? You have started a business and exited, I think. And what are your experiences about that?
Sure. I think entrepreneurs are entrepreneurs everywhere, and any entrepreneur can live and survive. I think even in Mars maybe. But I felt something, I couldn't do anything without the people around me supporting me. The people, for example, Sato-san introduced me a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of people, and my customers also was very supportive to me because, you know, Japan is conservative, very conservative, especially to foreigners. So it was, at first it was really hard to start. But when I started, I thought the most important thing was the technology. But I felt that was wrong, and the most important thing is people. So without people, you cannot succeed. That's what I really felt in Japan. It's a very long story, but to make it short, I've been living there for 8 years, and I went there for university. For master and doctor courses. I studied natural language processing there, and I started my company in PhD stage, and I ran that company for 4 years and sold it, and tried to make another company, but I failed in that. But after that, I joined NetPrice. And now I'm in charge of investments in Asian countries, but I'm very newbie in investment business. So that's my experience.
Teruhide, thank you. Thank you for attending and also sharing your experiences with us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.